following program contains language and subject matter that you may consider unsuitable for children. Parental discretion is advised.
Greetings, Earthling. His Highness the Jackals.
The Jackal.
I'm going to pass the reins to Mr. Jackal, the new king of radio.
I think Jackal's Rapino. I'm not sure, but he'll give it to you good. Hold on a second here.
The Jackal.
All right, everybody, welcome to another Inside the Jackal's Head, right here on PSN Radio and, of course, the world-famous SoFlo Radio. No matter where you're listening from, it's either Shotcast or on the internet somewhere, because that's where we are, on the internet. We have a really cool guest tonight. Dr. Joseph Marra is going to be with us, and he's been with us with the show before a couple times now, and I really love having him on the show. Great guest, and I don't know if you guys remember Dr. Joseph Marra, but he's a doctor of nursing, and me and him actually share an agreement in something that is very important. We both believe we have been dumbed down by the powers that be for control, power, money, and for various other reasons. Now, he feels that we are all spiritual beings living a human experience, and that we are also multi-dimensional beings that can manifest whatever we desire with intent and focused thought. I really believe that also. We must first go within and rid ourselves of negative karma and learned beliefs that have been taught to us for many generations. That says Mr. Marra, and I completely agree with him on that. So that's going to be a lot of fun. He's going to be with us in about 25 minutes. Again, I want to welcome everybody listening in, and I hope you stay around for the entire interview. Now, if you want to call in, we will have open lines when Mr. Marra is on, or Dr. Marra, when he went to medical school for a reason, right? Not for me to call him Mr. He's Dr. Marra. But when he's on the line, if you guys want to call in and ask him any questions, please do so. Again, the number is 786-245-8127. It's the number in the chat room, which can be found by simply going to www.psn-radio.com. You can also find us on Facebook by typing in The Jackal's Head right in the search bar. It's a lot easier that way than telling somebody the whole URL. So just look up The Jackal's Head or Inside the Jackal's Head, and you'll be able to find us on there. Also, you can check out the website, thejackalshead.com, for all the podcasts that we have. We have a couple of things that have been going on in the news, which I want to get to. Some geeky stuff, some legal stuff, and a very funny letter written by a police chief to a one Mr. Kanye West. Now this is the first one I'm going to go with, actually, because it is pretty funny. You would agree with me, right, Pete, that this is a pretty funny story here? Yeah, this actually is pretty amusing. Yeah, exactly, see? Pete agrees with me. Thank you, Petey. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for agreeing. Now, it says here, an open letter from Police Chief David Oliver to Kanye West. He says, and I don't know if you guys have been following with some of this stuff, but Kanye West compared himself to the police recently. So a police officer answered back, and he said, I'm honored to be writing such an important star. I am a mere internet sensation. I'm not sure if I'm worthy to address you. Although the Huffington Post did say that I was humorous and insanely popular. I didn't pay much attention to those things. Anyway, please excuse my interference in your life for a quick second. I read your review and also watched it on video. You said, and I quote, I'm just giving my body on stage and putting my life at risk, literally. And I think about it. I think about my family. I think like, wow, this is like being a police officer or something, in a war or something, end quote. That's Kanye West that we're quoting there. Now, the letter goes on to say, I want to thank you for putting your life on the line for all of us every day. I know that being a rapper is tough work. I have tried to rap, and it is very difficult to keep up with the pulse of the rhyme flow. Although when Ice Ice Baby comes on the radio, I can usually keep up with Oh Vanilla. Anywho, your job is just some very dangerous work, I know. Most people don't consider if you rap really fast without a chance to inhale, you could pass out and hit your head. It's actually true, you could do that. It says, now the last paragraph was covered in sarcasm, as the first. But anyway, it says, I'm letting you know, just so you do not think that I agree with your very ignorant assessment of your career. or any other performer as it relates to a person in the military or a police officer's service. You, sir, are as misguided as they come. I do have a suggestion for you. Since you are accustomed to danger from your life as an international rapper, I am strongly encouraging you immediately abandon your career as a superstar and join the military. After joining, I would like you to volunteer to deploy to Afghanistan or one of the numerous other forward locations where our men and women are currently serving. When the Taliban starts shooting at you, perhaps you could stand up and let the words flow. It could be something like, I'm Kanye West, wearing a flak vest. I'm sure they would just drop weapons and surrender. That's actually a pretty good rhyme. You could quite possibly end all wars just from the enemy being starstruck. This is brilliant. I love this police guy. It goes on to say, your line of thinking is part of the problem in the world today. And I agree. Which includes entertainers thinking they are something more than just entertainers. This guy's brilliant. I know it is supply and demand, and the demand for your service is high. I get economics. What I do not get is you ever comparing what you do for a living to our heroic military members who are always in harm's way, and my brother and sister police officers who have to go to work carrying weapons and wearing a bulletproof vest to protect themselves. Now, and he ends with the best part ever. I'm gonna clear my throat on this one. There's the last line here. It says, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Chief Oliver. Peace. Now, this might be the greatest letter ever written to a rapper in the history of the world, really. I mean, I don't think it could ever get any better than that. And this is, again, an open letter from Police Chief David Oliver to Kanye West. Pete, I think this deserves a round of applause. Yes, it does. Give that man a round of applause. All right, enough of that. Kanye West has to be like the biggest douchebag alive. How do you compare yourself to a police officer or anybody who is serving overseas or any? I mean, really, Kanye? You really think that just because you can go on stage and you can sing some rhymes that, I'm like a police officer because my life is dangerous and shit? No, not really, not really, Kanye. Hey, Kanye, you're just, I don't know, man. Kanye is like the biggest dude ever since that Taylor Swift incident. I really just have disliked Kanye West, and it's gotten worse and worse over the last, couple years. Now he's married to Kim Kardashian, so he's always in the news, unfortunately. But what a douchebag, Kanye West, to compare himself to the police. Jesus Christ, man. Whew. Talk about needing to get a life. Holy moly. So anyway, that's the first one that I have here. I also have another in the world of entertainment. Another news report here just came out actually a couple days ago, and this is from the Jackson family. As you know, there's never any lack of news surrounding Michael Jackson and the Jackson family, and it's nothing different now. Katherine Jackson seeking a new trial. Look at that, I rhymed that without even trying. But the family of late singer Michael Jackson has filed court documents indicating they plan to seek a new trial in the wrongful death lawsuit against concert promoter AEG after a Los Angeles jury cleared the company of liability in October. Attorney for Jackson's mother, Katherine, who is now 83, and his 3 children, filed court documents citing misconduct of the jury and insufficient evidence amongst the reasons for a pending request for a new trial. The 2-page court filing, which was submitted on Monday, December 2nd, in Los Angeles County Superior Court, also cited newly discovered evidence, but did not go into many details. Katherine Jackson and the singer and the singer's 3 children, Prince Michael, Paris, and Little Blanket, sued AEG Live over Jackson's 2009 death, who at the time he was 50, in Los Angeles, from an overdose of powerful anesthetic propofol given to the pop star by his then doctor, inmate Conrad Murray. The wrongful death lawsuit claimed the concert promoters had acted negatively by hiring Murray as Jackson's personal physicians, but a jury concluded Murray was significantly qualified for his job. The verdict came after a sensational 5-month trial that offered a glimpse into the private life and final days of Michael Jackson, the King of Pop. At the time, her attorney promised to consider all options in response to the verdict, and Murray was convicted of involuntary manslaughter in 2011 for Jackson's death and served half of his 4-year sentence in Los Angeles prison. He was released in October under a California state plan to reduce prison overcrowding. So Conrad the Butcher Murray is back on the streets, looking for another pop star to murder. Who will be next? Maybe somebody can get him in touch with Justin Bieber. What do you think, Pete? Justin Bieber?
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to see if I can make that happen for him. I think I got his number.
Why do you have Justin Bieber's number? Exactly. Anyway, I don't even want to know, man. I don't care. But moving on. So Katherine Jackson and the Jackson family trying to sue AEG again. I don't know how this is going to play or how it's going to play out or whatever, but I don't know how they really can blame AEG for Michael Jackson's death. I mean, Michael's been addicted to medication for many, many years. Who knows how long he's been doing propofol? I mean, for all we know, he's been probably doing these kind of drugs for maybe a decade or 15, 20 years. Eventually, that kind of stuff does catch up to you. I mean, I think I think they're like really just barking up a dead tree here. There's nothing here, and I don't know why they keep trying though. I mean, they really are trying to squeeze as much money out of Michael Jackson's legacy as they can. I mean, they're making a lot of money. I checked out Net Worth, the website, a few days ago, just out of curiosity when I read this story, and I checked out Prince Michael, the oldest of the 3 kids, and he has $100 million net worth, and that's what Michael left him, $100 million. That to me is incredible. $100 million. That kid has done nothing in his life, but he was somehow conceived by some lady with Michael Jackson's, maybe his sperm, maybe not. Who knows? We really don't know. I mean, he doesn't really look like a Jackson, but, genetics and all, but just doesn't look like Mike. Yeah, he just doesn't. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not a hater or anything, but $100 million. I mean, I know Mike, and it's crazy because Michael Jackson's estate is still worth about $600 million. He's actually made more money since he's been dead than when he was alive. So, there you go. Now, some movie news here before we move on and get our guest on the line. Ed Helms to star in the Naked Gun reboot for Paramount. Now, apparently Ed Helms has become the go-to guy for classic comedy reboots. He was poised to top line New Line's Vacation reboot. Remember the Chevy Chase Vacation movies from the 80s? He was going to do that until creative differences over the film in the film's ratings led to it being delayed and then put in development hell. And now Paramount has tapped Helms to play in and step in for Leslie Nielsen in the reboot to The Naked Gun. I don't know how I feel about this. Those movies are kind of sacred, man. Leslie Nielsen, really? I love the Naked Gun trilogy. But anyway, Variety reports that Helms will star in the new Naked Gun film with Night of the Museum and Reno 911 scribe Thomas Lennon and Bent Garant penning the screenplay. Plot details are unknown at the time, but Helms will play a new version of Mr. Detective Frank Drebin, the character that Nielsen made famous in director David Zucker's 1988 original, The Naked Gun, from the Files of Police Squad. Paramount went to make 2 more Naked Gun movies in 1991 and 1994, and the films carried Nielsen's signature brand of slapstick humor. It should be interesting, it says here, to see if this new film would be in keeping with that style, if Lennon and Garant will tailor the redo more into Helms' sensibilities, or they're going to go and continue what Leslie Nielsen did with it. That's why I have an issue with this, because that is such an iconic role. But we'll never, they're never going to be able to get rid of the original. So we'll always have the original 3 Naked Gun movies to look back on. And Ed Helms is actually a very good actor. He's very funny, so this should be interesting. But it's going to be tough to sit there and watch anybody play Frank Drebin that is not Leslie Nielsen. Now, I wonder if they're going to get somebody to play OJ's part and have that whole beginning over again. You know what I'm saying? That has to be the most epic start to any movie ever. The beginning of The Naked Gun with OJ in the boat, kicks through the door, his foot gets stuck through the door. Love that. Now, Jeremy Renner is rumored to be out as Hawkeye in Marvel's cinematic universe. I don't know if your Avengers fans out there are aware of this, but since over the past week or so, there's been plenty of talk of major players at Marvel Cinematic Universe that have expressed some discontent over their contracts, and this stems way back. And I know that a lot of them have agreed to come back, but there's still a rumbling that Jeremy Renner might not be coming back, and it's assured that it wouldn't be the first time that Marvel has played hardball with some of their cast. Of course, Terrence Howard and Edward Norton are no longer part of the cinematic universe, and they were both supposed to play big parts in what they were doing with the Avengers. So look out for that. Jeremy Renner, who became famous also for the Bourne film that he did, the Bourne Legacy, or I don't know, Bourne Legend. One of the Bourne. I think it was like the one without Matt Damon. But anyway, I hate when they recast main characters like that. And even though in the Avengers movie he was kind of like shitty, but they did say here, according to the report, at our comic book movie, an inside source is suggesting that Jeremy Renner could be finished with the cinematic universe, and owing to some negative comments from the actor about his role as Hawkeye in the mega blockbuster movie The Avengers. He said for 90% of the movie, I wasn't the character I signed on to play. Now, allegedly, there's the tiniest chance that Renner will be back for the Avengers 2, but it's more likely that Hawkeye will be recast. Now, it says here, if so, he could also be integrated into S.H.I.E.L.D. as a primary character for later in the season, maybe next season. Well, it's essentially possible that the reports are a little bit more speculation than anything else. Renner is noticeably absent from the Phase 2 of the MCU, despite the fact that S.H.I.E.L.D. veterans Samuel Jackson did come out in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s TV show. They haven't really showed Hawkeye, so who knows what's the future for Hawkeye in the Avengers movie. That he really was kind of like a throwaway character, to be honest. Jeremy Renner is a good actor, but man, they really did a piss poor job with his character in that movie. He was just really non-existent. And I think what really happens with those kind of like big movies is it's tough to put that many characters in one film and tell all those stories. It's not easy. It really is. That's why I'm so worried about the Avengers 2, and I'm worried about the whole Justice League with DC now. Of course, they're saying they just cast Wonder Woman on Superman versus Batman versus Aquaman versus Tina Turner versus superstar Billy Graham. I don't know. There's like so many people in that movie. But for sure, Batman, Superman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, they're going to be in it. But now Flash apparently is going to be in it too. So that's getting very, very crowded. And it's really hard to tell a story when you have that many characters to tell. So I get what he's saying. Eventually, I'm sure when they pitched the whole thing to him, they told him, well, your character's going to be like this, and it's going to be great, and you're going to be a hero, and blah, 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 blah. And then when you actually write the script, and you see how you got to put that together with all those people, you end up coming up with, maybe 5 minutes of dialogue, and about 10 minutes of screen time. And most of the time you look emo and butthurt because you're playing a guy who just got his mind taken over by the bad guys. So that's kind of what happened to him. And it's unfortunate because he's a very good actor and a very good action actor too, which is something I was excited about having him on in this film because he is a very good actor. And again, he was very good in the Bourne movie that he was in. Now, real quick, sad news in the world of Hollywood. Peter O'Toole passed away. Now, Peter O'Toole is a British screen legend, and he passed away today at age 81. 21, that would have been really sad. No, but 81. After battling a long illness, his agent has revealed the star who received an honorary Oscar in 2003 enjoyed a career that spanned 7 decades and saw him receiving 8 Academy Award nominations for Best Actor, making him most nominated actor ever to win the Oscar, including The Adventures of T.E. Lawrence in David Lean's 1962 epic Lawrence of Arabia. That was the first movie of Peter O'Toole that I ever saw. Born in 1932, O'Toole began his acting career treading in the boards, then made his TV debut in 1950s before making a leap to the big screen with a small role in 1959's The Day They Robbed the Bank of England. After his breakthrough role in Lawrence of Arabia, he would earn further Oscar nominations for Beckett in 1964, The Lion in Winter in 1968, Goodbye Mr. Chips in 1969, The Ruling Class in 1972, The Stuntman, that's a great movie, 1980, My Favorite Year, 1982, and Venus in 2006, as well as gaining a reputation for his hard-drinking, hell-raising off-screen antics. Along with his Oscar-nominated films, O'Toole's other credits includes the likes of How to Steal $1 Million, or How to Steal $1 Million, which came out in 1966. The Night of the Generals in 1967. And this is a very famous one here. You guys ready? Caligula in 1979. That's right, Caligula. But for my movie troll insanity nerds out there, he will always be remembered for his role in Supergirl in 1984. That's right, he was in Supergirl. Also, The Last Emperor, 1987. High Spirits, great comedy in 1988. King Ralph in 1991. Troy in 2004. And I didn't even know this. He was in Ratatouille in 2007. Also was in Stardust 2007. Well, there's a lot of movies, man. This guy's been in Hollywood for a very long time. And sad. He was a great actor, but the one movie he will always be remembered for, well, two movies really, Caligula and Supergirl. Now, I have a very funny story with Caligula, but it could get somebody arrested, so I'm not going to mention names. But I was at school when I was younger, and a certain teacher had to show the class some documentaries of Caligula, because we were actually going to do a report on Caligula. And he accidentally, when he went to rent a movie, now remember this is a long time ago, this one had VHS, and he went to rent the movie Caligula, the documentary, the clean one. Well, it turns out he got the wrong one. And the dude got the dirty version of Caligula. So he, apparently didn't prep for the class or anything. He just popped in the tape and said, okay, Caligula, that's good right there. I'm going to go, let's go watch this, kids. Puts on Caligula. Next thing you know, like a minute in, and there's a midget getting a blowjob. Now, I've never seen a teacher run as fast as I saw this man run towards the TV. I mean, he was hauling ass like I've never seen before. This man might have actually broken the speed limit trying to get to that TV. And let me tell you something. He, instead of hitting the power button or turning the VCR off or something, he was trying to cover the screen with his hands. Now, this is a teacher, folks. Covering the damn screen with your hands is not the way you're going to solve this problem. But this is what he tried to do. And it really was the most hysterical thing I've ever... I mean, we were all cracking up in class. I'll never forget just how much we were laughing in this class. And he was actually a great teacher. I got to say, mental lapse there, of course, but great teacher. And that was my introduction to Caligula. But rest in peace, Peter O'Toole. 1932 to 2013. Lived a long life, but great actor. We'll be right back, everybody, with our guest, Dr. Joseph Marra. Welcome back to Inside the Jackal's Head. That is me. I am the Jackal, and I am your host here on PSN-radio.com and SoFlowRadio.com. If you're listening in through there, that means that you really have no life, and this is the best thing going for you right now. So enjoy it. Sit back, relax. Call in if you want to. Open lines for myself and our guest, Dr. Joseph Marra. Welcome to Inside the Jackal's Head. Again, thank you for coming back, man.
Thank you. It's always fun hooking up with somebody from the East Coast. You're Southeast, of course, but I was from Pennsylvania there, so the weather's a little different where I'm at now in New Mexico, and I don't know, what do you guys got down there now? Is it pretty warm, or?
Oh, you know what? It's actually about 80 degrees out here right now, 80-something degrees, and I'm sorry for my friends up north. You know, my good friends up north who are struggling right now, but
Yeah.
we're doing good. You know, it's winter time, and you would never know it by being here in Florida.
Yeah, you know, I looked on the map the other day on the Weather Channel, and everybody got hit with this freezing cold. Even here in New Mexico, it was like 4 degrees, and I was like, dang, I could have stayed in Pennsylvania for this. And I looked, Florida was the only state that wasn't participating in the cold freeze.
That's about right. It's funny. We can go to the beach during winter.
Yeah.
Huh? How good is that?
That is awesome. I was just thinking, you know, I need to spend 1 or 2 months there, like right around this time of year, every year, maybe December, January, maybe even into February. Hey, I wanted to tell you, you have the name for your show is the Jackal's Head, right?
Well, it technically is inside the Jackal's Head, but I am kind of anal about that, by the way. You know, it is inside the Jackal's
Did you
Head.
change the name or something recently?
No, it's always been the name of the show.
Okay.
I also did Skywatchers Radio, which I do on Tuesday nights also. That's another show that I do. So I do a lot of advertising on the internet, so you might catch different shows with my name on there. But enough about me. Nobody wants to hear about boring old me. They want to hear about you, Dr. Joseph Marra, who hasn't been on the show in a little bit, not a whole long time compared to some of my other guests. But how you been, man? It's been a while. Now let's do that over because I don't think the audience heard you the first time when I asked how you were doing. So how you been?
Well, I've been good, except for, as I said earlier, it's been freezing here in New Mexico. And, well, today was nice. It was pretty nice. It was in the 40s and 50s, depending on what part of the state you were in, and I was traveling. But last week, man, it was down to like 4. And I was like, I could have stayed in Pennsylvania to get this stuff. And like I was saying earlier, I don't know if everybody heard, but it was hilarious looking at the Weather Channel and looking at the country, and the only state that didn't want to participate, it looked like, was Florida. And so I was like, oh, man, that's a place I got to get to because this cold weather is just for the birds.
You do, man. It's like 80 degrees or something like that now in December down here, and we have like maybe 2 days of winter. That's about it. It's beautiful, man. Like late December, my birthday's coming up. I'm a New Year's Eve baby. I was born on December 31st, and my birthday's right around the corner, a couple weeks away or a week and a half away, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I am going to go to the beach for my birthday on December 31st.
That's awesome.
Who the hell could say that?
To me, it's like I'm here going, oh, God, that sounds like that would be cold.
It's a total delight, isn't it?
Well, I guess it would if it's 80-some degrees, huh?
Yeah, no kidding. So, I know that you used to do the radio show a lot like this show. You had a very good radio show for a while there. You're not doing that anymore. So tell us, give us an update of what you've been up to, man.
Boy, man. I don't know. The last time I was on, I guess I'll just start from, I used to do that show, Universal Talk.
Right.
And then I created another one called A Guiding Light. And all these things are archived. And so people could go back and listen to the interviews. And it kind of, what I was trying to do was put the pieces to the puzzle together of what the heck was going on this planet, because nothing ever really made sense. And so I interviewed people like doctors, nurses, lawyers, astronauts, all over the world, not just the United States. I'm talking like South Africa and Ecuador and just everywhere. And just to kind of get an individual's perspective or point of view from their profession. And some of these guys are black ops projects and, whistleblowers. And it's just amazing what is going on behind the scenes. And people are more and more, they're waking up. And thanks to Snowden, they come out with these leaks. And, it was funny how Facebook, people are really clever. They put on there, you see this picture of, I can't remember who it was, but it was Obama and a woman that said, if you know something, say something. And right beside it, it had Snowden saying, I said something, and now he's excommunicated, It's like,
Yes. What
the heck? How clever is that? It's like, yep, that's our country.
That is the country we live in, huh?
Yeah. And then, of course, some people are like, oh, he's a traitor and all this other. Well, you know what? That's what, our Constitution was all about, protecting ourselves from ourselves, or at least our government and those of us who are working there. And, not everybody's bad, so I'm not going to say that's,
How much do you buy into like all the stuff with Obama that they say about the man? Like all the bad stuff, really, because they've demonized them pretty badly in the last year.
I'm on the fence. I just don't know. I honestly, because if I was to look at it from a third dimensional point of view and actions speak louder than words, I would be with those people saying, oh my gosh, how can he be calling for war in Syria? We don't need another war, and all these other things that have almost manifested, I'd say. But that the blessing was that we didn't go to war. People stood up. There was protests, and I mean, so I don't know, man. I don't know what to say on that one. Honest to God, I've been racking my brain going, boy, I just don't have a good feel either way. I just don't know.
It's funny because it always falls on the president's head whenever we have to go to war or war breaks out or something like that. But going to war is not just okay, we got to go to war now because we have to. No, you have to go through Congress. You have to go through certain channels and steps, and you either are going to go allowed to go to war or you're not allowed to go to war. And the people really did speak up. You're right. I mean, it was really good to see everybody just say, you know what, enough with the wars, man.
Yeah,
it was one of the first times that the people stopped the country really from maybe invading another country. 'Cause that's really what it is. That's what it is. I mean, people are like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they were evil or anything like that, but we are the ones that are over in the Middle East. They're not over here. And,
right.
There's no soldiers over here in the streets.
Right.
You know what? For example, insurgents. That's a big thing. Insurgents are not soldiers. They're just people trying to protect their environment.
Right.
So,
and I always said, I'm always like, well, just think if somebody would come over here and tell us to change our way of life, and you're going to do it this way because this is the way we see is best.
Right.
I really don't think we have any business in that preemptive thought of, we got to get them before they get us type of a thing. That's all like fear mongering and, scare tactics. And plus, if you look at the research, and this is what these black ops guys and these whistleblowers had been telling me over the years, was there was more to it than what is being put out there on the media. So mainstream is saying one thing, and they're making you look in the left hand when in the right hand they're doing something totally different. And it was amazing. In my office, in my practice even, I had soldiers that were coming back, and they were telling me, they're like, I'd ask them, I'd be like, hey, you were just there in Afghanistan. What they just said on the news that blah, blah, blah. And they're like, that never even happened. We just came from there last week. That's all a bunch of BS. So my perspective had changed over the years, and this is all part of my wake up about what the heck is going on, And then you could get into the Illuminati and all these other things, and it all sounds like conspiracy theory, but people that used to be totally against it and said, no, this can't be happening, our government would never do that, and now all of a sudden with all these whistleblowers and these leaks that are coming out, there it is. Yep. I think even the last time you and I spoke, the FBI released something about Roswell. Didn't you put that up somewhere?
They've released stuff about Roswell. They released also something that was very important, even probably more important. They released and admitted that there is an Area 51 for the first time, including President Obama came out and publicly actually acknowledged Area 51, and he said, I'm probably the first president to ever mention Area 51 in a speech.
Wow.
Just like that, actually.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And, he actually came out publicly and mentioned Area 51, and it's incredible they even said that. And, I had Steve Bassett on the show recently, and, he really does believe, and I'm kind of with him, that disclosure is not that far off, and I think disclosure is it's almost needed at this point because of the way the world is. It's really topsy-turvy, of a subject to get into, because I don't think the entire planet is fully capable and ready to deal with the reality that we're not alone, but I think at least in this country we're ready for it. We're, for the most part, Americans understand that we're really not alone. Even the Vatican, I think, at this point understands that we're not alone in the universe. And you know what? It doesn't really. Religion is scared. Or most religions are scared that this would hurt them in a way, but I don't think it does, because it doesn't really take away from God's plan if you still want to believe in God. Why would He create only one planet with life? That makes no sense. That's no fair. That's no fun. Yeah. You know what I mean?
This whole thing, I'm telling you, there's a big can of worms that will explain everything. Once you go down this road and the Pandora's box is open, all the answers are right there, but the people have to do the research and be receptive to what is truly going on. And this is what I'm talking about. I mean, we can go deep into this because, first of all, there are some people in the populace that don't even believe in ETs. Okay, they're like, we're alone in the universe and we're special, and my religion says that God made us. And
those are called Christians.
And I used to be one of them, so there's no judgment on my part.
And Jehovah's Witnesses. I used to be one of those. So continue.
Okay. So, again, it's like when you experience these things, you capture them on video and you're seeing them and a whole bunch of other people are right with you seeing these things. You can't go back anymore. You can't be like, okay, I can't be a believer of this anymore because I just don't want to. Wholeheartedly that there is something going on. And so then you start doing some research and you're like, why would this be the way it is? And I mean, if you want to go deep, we could go, buddy, because this is going to be a long show, though, because it took me a long time to get where I'm at to this awareness.
I had a conversation a little while back, since way after since you last came on the show, with my niece's mom, who is very religious. She's a Christian lady, very nice lady, and she's my brother's ex-wife. And she was over the house one day, and she started asking me about my religious beliefs and stuff because she likes to engage me in conversation, knowing that I do a radio show and that we kind of get into these kind of topics. And she tried to engage me in conversations about God and aliens. And after 5 minutes of her kind of preaching a little bit, and being a little bit of a Bible thumper towards her beliefs, I asked her, and by the way, she's a complete non-believer in aliens. I mean, she did not believe in aliens whatsoever, but she's very hard on the Bible and believes that that God is real and the Bible is real. And I asked her very calmly, I said, let me ask you a question. Where does God come from? Oh, well, I don't know. We really don't know that. Okay, but does God live on planet Earth? Well, no, he doesn't live on planet Earth. No. Okay, so God lives somewhere else, on a different plane, different planet, different realm, different dimension, whatever, heaven, right? Yeah, that's about right. Okay, you could say heaven. Okay, where's heaven? Well, I don't know. Well, it could be another dimension. It could be another planet. Maybe we've been deceived. Who knows what the truth is, right? Heaven could be anywhere. It could be a planet somewhere light years away from us. The bottom line is God is not from this planet, right? And she goes, well, technically, no. And you go, okay, so technically we're saying here that God is an alien. God is an extraterrestrial. Your God is an alien. This, I tell you right now, Joseph, this lady, I've never seen a person turn as white as she did.
Deer in the headlights, what?
Completely. She paused, and this is a person, we Latinos speak very fast in Spanish, and in English, and in any other language, and she's no stranger to speaking fast, but she paused for a good 10 seconds before, the only thing that came out was, you're right. I never looked at it like that. And I'm like, exactly. You never looked at it like that. But in reality, you don't know what God is. And then I asked her something else that kind of blew me away, because it's funny when you really get into a conversation with somebody who's religious, and I've had this conversation before with other religious folks, and I ask them about certain things like, did you know that there's slavery in the Bible, and it mentions that it's okay to have slaves, and there's certain passages that even tell you, yeah, you can even let them go, or you can kill them, when you're the master, it doesn't matter. Did you know that that's in the Old Testament? Did you realize that? I always get the answer, that's not in the Bible. Then I look for the passage and I show it to them, and they always say, "Cool, damn it, I didn't know that was in there." It's funny because most people really don't read and follow along their books of indoctrination. They know what they're told in church.
Yeah, exactly.
That's whatever they're reading there. They're like, okay, I'll follow along with whatever he's saying up there. He knows. He gives me a little piece of bread and some wine, and he tickles me sometimes. So yeah, he must know what's going on. That's kind of like what happens in this world, and it's sad. It's really, really sad.
Yeah. So this is okay. Let's start digging. Let's start chipping away at this iceberg. First of all, if you think about what you just said there, that's why some of the beings that we let's just say the people running the planet,
right?
They look at the mass humanity as sheeple, because we just toe the line and follow
correct
what we're saying, and they don't do, or we don't do any research, and and all these types of things. So we just kind of follow the line, and we just believe what we're told. But those of us that have stepped outside the box to really look and really research and get your boots on the ground and travel all parts of this planet to talk to people and see things for yourself and become that experiencer, you can't lie to me anymore. You can't tell me to my face that these certain things don't exist or it doesn't work anymore. So that's what I would suggest. First of all, open a book and start researching or get on the computer. Today's the age of mass information.
You can Google it. If you have an idea or something you want to look up, Google it. Slavery in the Bible. I'm sure you'll find a lot of passages. Look it up on Google.
Yeah, man. And so if we're going to go down this road, you talked about Stephen Bassett, and his talk is about, he advocates for disclosure. Right. And so that entails that we're not alone in the universe. So then you say, okay, well, if we're not alone in the universe, how come they don't come down here and land on the lawn? And this goes back to what you said initially in the program. You were saying that you don't think that the majority of the population is ready for this. And so if they're not ready for it, imagine what would happen let me back up. You see things in movies, you see things in books, and so these little seeds are being planted to allow people slowly to get the idea and chew on it for a while and be like, okay, well, maybe we're not alone. And then the Vatican comes out and says, well, if there were extraterrestrials, we would baptize them in Christianity and, Catholicism and all this. And you're like, okay, why is all this happening? Why are they even saying this? Right. To me, it's a slow disclosure so people don't totally freak out and go into fear, because the shock of this whole thing is just going to be huge, for one. That's only one aspect of this. Another aspect of it is, okay, if they're here and if they can travel light years, how did they get here? We can't go that far with our current propulsion systems. We're using oil and gas. And, so then it's like, well, okay, well, they have free energy. Whoa, wait a minute. They have free energy? Do our scientists know about this? And if they do, how come we're not using it on the planet? And so it comes down to what some of the whistleblowers had told me. They would use the word God as an acronym. Gold, oil, and drugs. This is the CIA guys. So so you start digging into all this kind of stuff. And, I'm not trying to defame God or anything. So all the the people that are really religious and all that, you don't get bent out of shape over it. It's an acronym that some of these whistleblowers are using to show, hey, through this geopolitical wake up that I had, and this is what we call it, as you're waking up to the truth with chemtrails and the sprays and the chemicals and the foods and, the Monsantos of the world and just on and on. And why are we going to war over there? Oh, wait, there's oil over there? Oh, maybe we have another agenda. And then I'm telling you, this story just opens up huge. But people are so afraid of being duped most of the time that they won't even step into this arena because, for one, they'll be afraid of ridicule. I'll bet you there's a lot of people that have seen UFOs that just won't come forward because they don't want to be teased.
Definitely, yeah.
And their profession would, you know what I'm saying? It's
look at what's his name, Congressman. I always butcher his name, Kucinich. He ran for president on the last election, and they asked him, if he would admit that he saw a UFO. That was the end of his campaign. They railed his campaign. Right. Right after that question, it's like he didn't exist anymore. And that's a guy who has a lot of money, paid a lot of money to be there, and they asked him one simple question, and then that was the end of him. And he was actually doing pretty good at the time during the what do you call it, the Democratic, no, not the Democratic, the GOP, the debates, the GOP debates.
Yeah. Well, and it's so funny because look at as a prime example of this, look at the governor, the ex-governor of Arizona.
Right, another one, yeah.
He totally ridiculed the people that came out when he, in fact, saw it himself. Yep. And later on came back after he was out of office So these are our leaders today. They're looking out for their own interest, even though they're voted in, and we're all these sheeple that are like, oh, they're going to lead us and they're going to do the best job because we voted for it. No, they have their own agenda. They want to stay in office so they can do what they got to do and pay back the deals that they, got in there with. And it's because if they don't, they get kicked out, and they have to toe the line just like the rest of humanity. And it's so obvious. I mean, that's a prime example. Here's this guy. He has one of his staff dress up as an alien, come on stage and make us a big joke out of this whole thing about the Phoenix Lights. Meanwhile, you have a credible source, Lynn Kitai, who's an MD. She puts her, credentials on the line, and she goes out. And all these other people that they interviewed and saw this. Later on, a couple years after that, I went out there myself hoping to catch it, and I actually did. I have it on my own camcorder. So I physically saw it with my own eyes. I have it on camera. Not to mention that the one time when I went to the ECETI Ranch, and we have that on documentary, we have it on camera, my own film. I mean, I saw it with my own eyes. Plus, there was a whole field of people that was witnessing these things. So
Joseph, let me ask you a question. When you see these things, do you think you're looking at aliens really, or is there any possibility these are back-engineered crafts that we're flying, and somehow you guys are just at the right place at the right time when they're test flying them or something like that? Or do you really think we're being visited that often?
Well, it's like this. I think that there's a combination of the two, and that's what the confusion is, and the water is muddied out there because of this issue. But some of the things that I've seen, you would see this great big light coming across the sky, just above the treetops, basically, and all of a sudden it would just stop. And everybody in the field saying, power up, power up, and all of a sudden this thing lit up like a football field. And then all of a sudden it would go back down to just dim. And then you see, well, yeah, and this is what was really interesting. You would hear the jet fighters that were dispatched to go towards us, and you could see them because, it was just the light was casting on these things, and you could see the flashing lights of these jets. You could hear them, and here they go right towards this thing. And these, by the way, these jets looked like specks compared to how big this thing was. And they would go right to it, and the next thing, the light would blink out totally. They would fly through, and all of a sudden, whoop, back on. And it was like they were screwing with the government. And we were sitting there laughing, going, "Oh my God!" So how did they disappear? I don't know if anybody in our government or any other government that has these cloaking devices or that can pop into one dimension or another, but these are the types of things that defy our current explanation or scientific explanation. And so, and to sit there and hover with no sound, I mean...
You'll agree, though, if there was an accident at Roswell in 47, if we did back engineer a craft that crashed there, by now that technology would have been back engineered to the point that it's merged into other different aircrafts that we've been creating for the last 40, 50 years, and we've probably created several aircrafts so they could possibly do those kind of maneuvers, phase in and out. I mean, who knows what kind of technology was on that craft? And we know Velcro, they say, came out of the saucer. Velcro is great. Imagine what else that came out of that saucer. CDs, maybe? I don't know. Yeah. But, maybe, anti-gravity.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of different technologies that might have come out of that craft. So who knows really what's flying out there, though? It might just be our own guys, test flying these things.
Okay, so let's go with that. So the point is, if there was an alien crash, that tells us right there, if it was back engineered, it's not from this planet. So regardless of what I'm seeing, if it's back engineered or if it was something from 1947, we're not alone in the universe. That changes the whole game. So,
no. Well, that's the saying, Joseph, that just 1% of it has to be real for it all to be real, right? That's kind of what you think everybody's saying. It's true. 1%. That's all we need. Just that 1%er, baby.
Exactly. And so, we have these testimonies from these guys that were there in 1947 when you're talking about the Roswell crash. And one, I believe his name was Philip Corso.
Correct,
and you can get on YouTube. He has he lays it out exactly what happened, what was back engineered. How do you think our technology went from horse and buggy in 100 years, and now look where we're at with these computers and the silicone chips and like you say, the Velcro and laser light and I mean on and on and on and on. Fiber optics. I mean, all of this stuff came from back engineering. And, there were other whistleblowers that I've talked to and interviewed that have told me the same exact story, independent of one another, in different agencies. So I'm just like, I'm compelled to believe, yes, that this stuff does exist, and we're not alone in the universe. And whether I saw a back-engineered craft that came from an alien craft from 1947 or thereafter, or it's a current one, if, like you say, if there was one then why wouldn't I be able to see one today? And you're seeing more and more people seeing these things. I mean, constantly, every month you see on YouTube where these people are filming different types of UFOs, unidentified flying objects, all over the planet. And again, they're coming here to show us gradually, little by little. Okay, here we are. Here's a bunch of lights.
Going back to an original point that we made earlier was that the world is not 100% ready for it. I think Hollywood is playing a big part in getting us conditioned and ready. YouTube is a great thing that came along because now the world can get itself ready by posting what they see. With technology the way it is, like we were talking about, guess what? Right. Everybody has a high definition camera now, right?
Yes.
With high definition video on their camera, on their smartphones. For no less. So no matter where you are, you can take a video of whatever's in the sky. It makes it so much easier to share that kind of information. But Dr. Joseph, do you think though that even with that kind of technological advancement, it's still kind of hard to really take a lot of that serious because there's been a lot of hoaxing in the last 20 years, especially in the last few years with YouTube. There's been a lot of like fake videos and hoax videos and stuff like that. So that muddies the water even more.
Yes. And so this is where I go back to personal experience. When you are there, and it's not even like I'm looking through a lens, I'm looking with my own eyes, watching them. And so is a bunch of people. So I have, corroboration with the people that are right beside me looking at the same thing, telling you exactly, and they're describing what you just experienced. So, okay, so this is where it starts to get hairy and deep because, first of all, some people won't even get behind the idea that we're not alone in the universe. But once you start down that path, you're like, okay, what else is out there? And what dimensions are they coming from? Is that why these different crafts look differently and they have different characteristics? And so, it all depends on the audience that you're talking to is how much information you put out. So I'm trying to be discernful about how much I'm laying out there.
That's actually not a bad way to segue real quick because a lot of people do believe that a lot of the crafts that we're seeing are from either other dimensions, maybe they're us from the future. And one that a good friend of mine, Dennis Crenshaw, loves to bring up, and I can kind of see where he's going here with this, is that they come from the inner earth. That they've been here all along, that they coexist with us here. And that's what the objects that we're seeing in the oceans coming up as a lot of people know, USO, the undersea objects. They're coming directly from somewhere inside the earth itself. You believe that to be maybe a fact?
Oh no, to me, I'm a full-on believer, absolutely. And so we talk about these interdimensional or multidimensional possibilities. And, science is saying all these things, it's our current science, but people that don't open a book and are just listening to their religions or TV, they're not doing their own research. So they just say, well, I've never seen it on TV, so therefore it doesn't exist.
Right.
So it's almost like beating your head against the wall. You're like, this can be frustrating because your viewpoint is not quite valid because you didn't do any research. You're going by this TV that, it's all about Duck Dynasty and
propaganda and more propaganda and bad news. This guy murdered this guy and this guy. So negative, man. My mother watches the news religiously, and she's ill. She's stage 4 cancer. She's at home a lot. Going through her chemotherapy and doing her radiation stuff. She was at the house a lot, just relaxing and watching TV. And all she does is watch the news all day long. And I sat down with her one day and I was like, Mom, with what you're going through, why would you watch the news where it's nothing but negative stuff constantly? And she says, well, I just want to keep up with what's going on in the world. And I'm like, this is right here exactly is the problem with the world. This is what they're keeping up with. Just negative events, crime, murder. I mean, there's nothing positive ever shown in the news. And people do positive things all the time. People give to charities, people do all kinds of, but that doesn't come out in the news.
Mm-mm. No, and we're addicted. We're a society addicted to drama. So,
That explains Jersey Shore, by the way.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so much that we could get into, and this is such a big story. And for those that are just opening up to the possibility, you're going to be floored when this truth is all out there right now. You just have to get online and start looking and Googling this, and you'll be led to something else. But you got to start. You got to be open-minded because, you could. And I've had friends and family that are just like, look, I don't want to know about it because I'm afraid of it. I don't care about it. I just want to go to work, come home, drink a beer, watch football, done.
Those would be the sheeple that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and I'm not judging them because I used to be in the same boat. But you know what? Don't judge me and ridicule me for believing in something that I have, I have experienced. That's the frustrating part. And so as you're going up in these awarenesses, I'm telling you, there's so much that we could get into. Oh my God.
I will say this: I do understand some people's reluctance to get into these subjects or dig too deep, and I understand that because I myself have experienced being at a job and people finding out what I do on radio and what I talk about, and them going, "So here you do a show about aliens and UFOs and stuff," and that's kind of awkward when it's like your boss or the owner of the company asking you that, and you're like, how do you answer that with, "Well, yes, I do a show where we talk about aliens once in a while and." Yes, I believe in aliens. Normally, that leads to coming to my office real quick. And those never lead to good conversations. No. Whenever a sentence starts with, "Can I see you in my office real quick?" Normally, you get a pink slip right after that. You know what I mean? So I can see where people are scared to touch the subject. People are afraid to dig too deep into the subject. And look, at the end of the day, we live for a very short period of time on this planet. If we're lucky, we live 60, 70, 80 years. If you're a hardcore rapper from the streets, you live 25 years. So, it depends on who you are and where you're from. But, we live a very short life on this planet. So a lot of people are like, they're sheeple. They really just, I'm going to be here for only a short period of time. What does it matter anyway? And that's, I think, how the big corporations and the big brother and everybody who's in charge kind of gets their way, because at the end of the day, people die every day. And if you have a society and, there's a certain percentage that are interested in the subject, with people dying and people coming and people going, eventually over time, people do forget and things just happen. Like for Roswell, for example, people forgot about Roswell. That came and went. It took, Jesse Marcel coming forward, 20 years later or something like that, or many years, a few years later, coming forward and talking about it again in an interview for people to get interested in Roswell again and start digging into Roswell again. Because like everything, time passed and people just forgot. And unfortunately, that's something that could happen again with ufology, especially, not with ufology so much because that's never going to be forgotten, I think, but with the question and the desire to want to know if we're alone. Because a lot of people that might want to know might not be here in 20 years. We just lost Lloyd Pye, for example, who's a pioneer, I believe, in this field, and who's done nothing but great work in this field. And that happens, unfortunately. You know what I mean? So there has to be, I guess, an event that switches over to a new generation of researchers that continue forward. But I don't know if there's a lot of people interested in doing the kind of research that Pye did or anything like that. What do you think? Do you think that there'll ever come a time where people will be so bored of the subject that it would just disappear again?
Well, this planet is only so big, and it's becoming smaller and smaller the more people and the more technology we have. So what else is there? Eventually, we're going to have to grow up and come out of the sandbox and get out of the adolescent age and be like, okay, it's time to truly space travel because we're killing our planet. Look at Fukushima. Look at everything. It's just a disaster down here. If you truly open your eyes, people don't want to open their eyes. They just want to, what can I do? What can one person do? So they get depressed and they just don't want to deal with it. So I see space travel eventually. What else is there? Eventually, as you're exploring the oceans and the jungles, and that's who we are as a humanity. Is we're curious. We got to know how things tick, and so I don't know. I really think that out there is our future. It really is, and for people to accept it. And the problem is the current system is just not working. We have these banksters that hijacked our economical system, and people that don't want to believe that. I mean, this is all part of it. I'm telling you. So, you go down one of these rabbit holes, and all of a sudden it just branches off, and you're like, oh my gosh, now this makes sense. So the banksters that run the planet, they have trillions of dollars to lose if we say everybody gets free energy. It's all about control. It's all about keeping people in the dark and dumbing them down. And that's, now this is one dimension. I hate to, because I've been in a higher state of awareness for the past, I don't know, year or so, because I keep looking and searching and working on myself. And what we're talking about right now is a fifth dimensional or a fourth dimensional awareness. And let me tell you the difference. 3D is someone they get up, they go to work, they come home, they drink their beer, they watch TV, the football game, and that's it. They don't want to believe, and if they want to go to church, they go to church. If they don't, whatever. That's third dimensional, and I'm not judging it. I'm not saying it's a good thing, a bad thing. I'm just saying that's what it is. Fourth dimensional is stepping into, hey, ETs do exist because I actually saw a UFO. And by the way, did you see these? What the hell are they spraying up there, and why are they spraying it all over the planet? It's just, and now all of a sudden, these trees are dying off, and all this other stuff. And then the next thing you know, it's like, what's going on with Fukushima over there? That happened in 2011? Nobody talks about it on the mainstream, but if you look at it, you look at these, why did they shut off all the radiation detectors? And then you're like, okay, well, the scientists can't figure out why all the starfish are turning into jelly and dying, and all the all of the sardines that used to be out there, the fishermen are saying they didn't catch one, and now all the plankton is just dying off, and it's all in the Pacific. And now China just recently is refusing to accept any kind of shellfish, and I forget what all it is, from the Pacific coast of the United States. So you're like, well, wait a minute. They never done that before in history. What the hell is going on? But people don't want to hear it in 3D. 4D, you're just stepping into this stuff, and you're really realizing that, holy crap, our Constitution has been hijacked, our the financial system, all of this stuff. So you go back and do the research and find out when it happened, how it happened. It's there. It's all there. And then,
unfortunately, what would be the way to solve the financial problem other than destroying the economic system the way it is and rebuilding? But if you do that, everybody's going to be like, well, you see, that's the New World Order trying to take over. So it's a no-win situation, because if somebody wants to do it in an honest way to really fix things, they're going to get demonized for being part of the New World Order. Oh, that's just Big Brother trying to take over and destroy the country.
Yeah, and so, again, God, Angel, this is such a big story. Let me just go with the premise of the dimensions. The fifth dimension, before I answer that question, the fifth dimension is all unconditional love, seeing people for just who they are. They're just a human being. They're here doing the best they can, and without fear, without doubt, without judgment, you see that person for that soul that they are. And if they go out and commit a crime, you can't judge them. You don't know what their story was when they were a little kid. Maybe they got abused. You don't know. You don't have to agree with what they did, but you see them as a spark of light, that the old made in the image of God type of a thing. And so I'm just showing you different perspectives of how people look. And so when I'm on these radio shows now, it's really difficult, unless I know what the audience is, how I should answer the question. Because in a 3D way, I would answer it one way. From a fourth dimensional perspective, it'd be another. From fifth, it'd be another. And the people that haven't done the research won't get what I'm saying if I talk in these higher realms. And I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. So don't take it that way. It's just that I've risen in this awareness because for years and years and years I've been doing all this research and I've been connecting with people all over the planet, and now I have the bigger picture. In order to get to the even the nuts and bolts of it, this would take us all week to really dig in and prove exactly what happened, how it happened, and why we are where we are. And now you're asking me, how do we fix it?
Well, let's start at the beginning. How do we start to even learn?
Which part?
How do we start to learn to get to where you are?
Okay. The first thing you have to do is you have to be open-minded to even just be like, okay, this might be BS, but you know what? I'm going to sit through this YouTube thing and just see what they have to say. And so, for instance, get on YouTube, look up what in the hell or what the heck are they spraying, okay?
Okay.
Another good one is Thrive. And a lot of these things are free. And these are people that are in the know, that are out there in their specialty, that they've had 30 years of experience in various things. It's their specialty. And it's not coming from the mainstream. So people don't want to buy into it unless it's some credentialed person that's in NASA. Well, they're part of the problem. So it's really frustrating. I'm telling you.
Never a straight answer, NASA.
Well, no, and why, all of a sudden we have this event that's coming about, like this ISON, this thing that's supposed to be the brightest thing. It's supposed to be better than Halley's Comet, and all of a sudden Hubble telescope goes out. And it's like, well, what? Is this another conspiracy theory, or why aren't we able to see these things? Why,
Joseph, a lot of people believe the Comet ISON is actually Nibiru. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think so.
Neither do I, but I'm saying people do believe that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I hear you, because, there's lots of prophecies out there, and, again, this is muddy in the water, so, another prophecy would be the Hopi prophecy about the blue Kachina that comes. And, we could go back to all kinds of different prophecies, like in Medjugorje, I believe Mother Mary gave to one of the children that there'll be a sign that you can see but not touch. And you'll know the end times are near. And, there's just so much we could – I'm telling you, we can go in just too many directions here. It's hard to stay on task.
Well, you know what? Connecting back to what I was saying earlier about the whole God thing with my niece's mom, and what you just said right now about the end times. Let's jump into and segue right into the end times. Do you think the end times is going to literally mean, like with the rapture is the end of the world? We're going to be taken away to heaven somewhere. Maybe we're going to get zapped by a beam and picked up into the heavens somehow. Like in the movie This Is the End. I don't know if you've seen that movie. Very funny movie, by the way, where everybody gets just sucked into the sky, into like this clouds, or that's kind of violent, don't you think? But especially if it's supposed to be a religious, a good thing, why is it so violent? I don't understand that part of it. Or maybe the end times could be the end times because disclosure happens, and that's kind of what the end times is, the end of our ignorance. It could be more of the end times. The end of mankind's ignorance on the subject of are we alone, and the birth or the rebirth of humanity into a cosmic alliance with our brothers next door. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know the rapture always seemed kind of violent for being God's way of saying, hey, we're all going to heaven now.
Okay. Do you want my honest opinion on this whole thing?
Oh, I always ask for honesty. I would always hope that you're honest with me.
Well, yeah, I okay.
This is a tough one. I know I've gotten many religious people with this one. Because it's not easy to answer why the rapture is so damn violent when it's supposed to be a heavenly thing.
Here's what I would say. This comes down to the perspective of the person. Each individual person is in their own awareness and their own consciousness, and therefore, when this transpires, let's do some what ifs. What if there are 13 families that run this planet, and they are the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, and they're maybe considered the Illuminati, and they control all the money.
None of them are the Espinos, by the way. But go ahead.
No.
Yeah, my family controls nothing.
Okay, so what if they have millions and billions and trillions of dollars, and they were so used to running the planet? But this comes down to something like off of, and this is another thing that they do in movies, is they show you the truth before your eyes because they think we're so stupid we can't see what's going on. In this movie called A Bug's Life, they have the grasshoppers that there's
love that movie.
The dozen of them come in and they tell these hundreds of ants, They say you will pick the food, you will, store it, and we come and we eat the food. And that's what your job is. And then the one guy, second in command or whatever, says, what's one of these little ants going to do? He goes, look, the leader says, if they outnumber us 100-1. If they ever wake up to the fact of that, we're done. And at the very end of the movie, that's what exactly happens. So what if something like that happens in the end times? Where in their perspective as the leaders of the world, this could be a bad thing. But to those people that are just waking up to having, oh my God, now it makes so much sense why there's poverty and why there's somebody that has a yacht and 3 houses, and why is the world unfair? It doesn't make sense until you start to do all this research. And I'm telling you, you have to look into our banking system. You have to look into those things like the Illuminati. Is this factual? You have to prove it to yourself. You can't just listen to somebody. And that's my soapbox today is, look, get out there and do the research. You got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
I can only give you tidbits because we're going to be here all night and probably all week if we just go down these rabbit holes. But okay, let me get back.
It's definitely a subject you can be talking about for at least 5 or 6, maybe 8 hours nonstop with people, because there's so much information to talk about when you talk about this.
Yeah, and so what if the Bible, and by the way, I saw on Facebook today, like I said, these people are so clever. I love them. They put the Bible there and they say, I know this proves that God is for real. And there's a picture of the Bible. Right next to it is a picture of a magazine, Spider-Man. Spider-Man is real because of this magazine. And I just started laughing going, oh my God, how good is that? You know what I mean? So, what if the people running this planet were such that they were ritualistic? And so they did everything in rituals, and that's the type of behavior that these people that run the planet are in. So even if we kind of changed our path, so to speak, as humanity, because I truly believe that we're all connected in a conscious way. And the more people that think one thing at one time, that becomes our general reality. Okay? So
I agree with that, yep.
Okay. So and so if we changed what some people consider in a linear way a timeline where all of a sudden we're not going down that doom and gloom path anymore. Now we're going to that enlightened, that 1,000 years of the golden age, the Aquarius age, because that's written. And so what if those who are ritualistic are going with the Bible as the book? And they're like, okay, well, we have to manifest this. We have to play this thing out to the T because we are ritualistic. So that's why I see these things being attempted to be started, like World War III, and they're getting thwarted right now because humanity is waking up because of what we talked about earlier. We're in this age of instant gratification when it comes to, what's the meaning of that? Oh, I'll Google it. Bam, it's there. Oh, what's that in the sky? I'll get that on my phone. Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to send that. I'm going to either Skype it, I'm going to text it, I'm going to email it. You know what I'm saying? It's just instant. Right. So all this truth is out there for people to wake up and see what in the heck is going on. And once you do, then, like I say, then at first you get mad. You get upset because you're like, oh my God, these people are treating humanity. It's like the 99% of the world are suffering when 1% of the population is just swimming in wealth and abundance. And it's lopsided. So then you're just like, okay, we should have a God-given right of, if you're born on this planet, this is my personal belief. I think you should have your own home. You should have free heat, free transportation. You should be living from your heart and doing what you enjoy to do. So, I would be bored if I just sat around all day. I would want to go out and create something. I'd be like, okay, well, what can I do to pay it forward to the universe or to the world or to God, however you want to look at it? And when you start living that way, these are higher dimensional ways of living. In other places in the universe, I believe that's how things function. We're this hodgepodge of misfit toys here on this planet. We're trying to, and we got hijacked. And there's just talk about a schoolhouse from another perspective.
Joseph, the reason is that we're in a paid slaved society. Let's be real here. We say we have freedoms in this country, but freedom it's a very perceptive word because we're not really free. You have to, it's from a certain point of view, you have freedoms. We really have very little and very limited freedoms because in reality, we're all paid slaves. We're a number. You have a social security number, you have a work number, you have a cell phone number, you have numbers. You're a number to the system. You're a part of a system. You are a slave. What they did was when slavery was around many years ago, when they had slaves and it was normal, they figured out that we can't keep doing it this way. We got to figure out a better way to have slaves. Well, here we go. 200, 400 years later, we got a better way to have slaves. And it's a society right now. So you're absolutely right. In fact, of course, the Zeitgeist films talked about a society that would sustain itself without needing jobs and anything like that, and people would be able to live their lives and be, productive. That's tough and productive to society without needing that monetary system involved, and that machines and technology could do most of the labor, and we could actually, have our own time to develop new things and new ideas and give back to society and give back to nature and do positive things for the planet. But the thing is, will mankind do it? That's the big question. Are we willing to be positive? Because we're a negative bunch. We really are on this planet. There's a lot of people on this planet that like negativity. And my boardman, Petey, over here is being very negative because we have to go to commercial break. So we're going to cut to break real quick before Petey throws a tantrum over here or falls asleep again like he did last week. Sit tight, and we'll be right back with Inside the Jackal's Head. Petey, lead us out. All right, everybody, we're back on Inside the Jackal's Head here on PSN Radio and, of course, SoFlo Radio. I want to give a special shout-out to one Miss Nancy Burns, who's listening in tonight, of the show Future Theater, which airs every Saturday at 6 p.m. on the Dark Matter Radio Network and right here on PSN Radio. Very cool show with Bill Burns of UFO Hunters and UFO Magazine. I know that that's a magazine that I've been a fan of for a long time. Are you a reader of UFO Magazine, Joseph?
I'm aware of it. I haven't read that, but I did watch the show on TV when that was out, and I actually met Bill Burns at one of the Move On conferences I was speaking at, I think it was in Philadelphia. But I spoke at both Pittsburgh and Philly, and I think I met him there at the Philadelphia one. Nice guy, huh, Bill Burns? Yeah, great, and I love his work. I love what they do. They're out there and they're open-minded about what the heck is going on out there, and so I've personally witnessed it. I have it on camcorder, so you can't tell me. And again, could it be our current technology? Man, I don't know. What about all the cave paintings that they're depicting all these things? You know what I'm saying?
That's the one that gets me. When you see the paintings that actually look like little gray aliens, that's when you're like, okay, I can kind of understand that, we've been visited in the past. Or either that or everybody was on really good peyote and they all had a really same hallucinations back then. I doubt that was happening. You know what I mean? So there's a very good chance that, aliens were coming back. But, here's the thing. If they come from the inner earth, like we were saying earlier, then they're not really aliens. They're from the inner earth, and they've been here all along. There's a lot of theories that say that we came from the inner earth and we were kind of kicked out to the surface when, the whole thing with Adam and Eve happened. She ate the apple, and then God kicked her out of the kingdom. That whole story. Mm-hmm. Some people believe that was, the hollow earth, and that we got kicked out to the surface because of that darn apple that she ate.
I think there's probably a little bit of truth in everything, all these folklores, and the longer we are on this planet, and we were talking about this off air, with the pyramids that are being found. They're just buried under silt.
Everywhere.
Dirt, everywhere.
Yeah. Dude, in the oceans are finding pyramids under the ocean. Everywhere. It's crazy.
So it's like we're going to have to rewrite history whether they want to or not, because there is so much technology, and independent people have, what is it called, ground ultrasound or whatever it is, and even in the oceans. And so we're finding things that we probably couldn't before. Because, well, quite frankly, nobody could afford the technology. Now it's becoming more affordable. More and more things are happening, and the truth is just subtly coming out, little by little, to the point where you're just going to have to admit it and be like, all right, we know that this has been going on, and you know what I'm saying? I don't
or
know.
at least mildly accept it. At least be open-minded enough to say, okay, it could be true. At least that. Give me that.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at Hubble telescope and how many 100 billion light years it looks out there at all of these galaxies. And so, to put it into perspective, light can travel around this planet. And this planet's pretty big, 7 times in 1 second. So if you put that in a linear line and try to look at that and go out a year, how far and how fast can that be? Then you go 100 billion light years. I mean, that is you just can't even fathom it with your brain. So we're the only, and this is one of the comedians, I don't know who said this, but God stopped with us and said that we're the most brilliant people. Oh, God, that was just a brilliant joke. I have to give props to whoever it was. I'm just sorry I can't remember who it was. It wasn't me.
It could have been that God started with us and we were the first ones he created, saw the mistake he made, and said, you know what, I'm not continuing this project. This is, what a mistake. Oh, man, I'm going back to the kingdom, and I'm going to go relax and watch some Phil Donahue or something, because this is just horrible, these people. Look at this. They're warring. They eat the apple when I tell them not to. Like, what's going on with humanity? You know what? Flood. That's what we need, just flood.
Yeah. And you know what? You back to the petroglyphs and all that in New Mexico. I've traveled all over the place out here, and it's similar paintings and depictions from here, from Egypt, these are like worlds apart back then. I mean, how did they travel? It would have taken forever to come across. And then I have pictures of some petroglyphs here. That here's this alien-looking thing that the people that claim to be abducted, which is a whole other story. And if they were, they're seeing exactly what these depictions on these petroglyphs are next to a spacecraft. And these things are thousands of years old. And there was no flight until 1912 or something?
Something like that, yeah. Heck, I'm sure you know of the name Charles Delshaw. Sound familiar, Charles Delshaw?
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Well, my good friend Dennis Crenshaw wrote a book, The Secrets of Delshaw, which is about paintings of this man in the 1800s, before the Wright brothers, way before. He had paintings and descriptions of crafts that looked like UFOs.
Right.
They looked, very much like alien ships that we see today, and some of them looked, like some balloon ships and stuff like that. They were very advanced. And he was talking about the 1800s before.
What about
the Wright brothers? What did he know? The Vimanas is another thing.
We're like 5,000 years old or something like that.
Yep.
Well,
we found Vimanas not long ago in the Middle East somewhere. Didn't they find a Vimana in India? I think it was.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard. Did you hear about that? Where the soldiers were inside and they got sick. Some of them, I think, passed away and everything because of the radiation or whatever's going on in there.
Yes, and so you got to wonder. Again, because of technology and because of Photoshop, everybody's just on the edge like, oh, God, I'd really love to believe that, but I don't want to because I don't want to be duped. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So was this a factual I wasn't there. I didn't walk into the cave, but I would think that either there's some kind of radioactive stuff there or this thing is resonating at a higher vibration. And because everything is energy, as you walk into some of these fields of energy, your physical body can't maintain its solidity, and it just, that's my take on some of these higher dimensional things. And so I don't know if that's what the craft was and why they were getting sick because of if it held a higher frequency or if it was something that was poisonous like a radioactive thing. But I've heard the stories. I don't know enough about it to really.
Maybe it's a booby trap set by whoever built the Vimanas. It could be. They left it there for a reason. Maybe they set some booby traps or some kind of radiation booby trap on the ship itself. Even Travis Walton, when he had his incident, claimed that he felt a weird sensation as he got closer to the craft, and then of course he got zapped by whatever hit him and knocked him out. Maybe there is some kind of a fail-safe thing in these Vimanas and in UFOs or maybe that's something that they just use as a booby trap.
Yeah, it's possible, but I talked to, in fact, when I was speaking at one of the other MUFON conferences, I think it was in the Pittsburgh one. Travis and I we all stayed in the same hotel, so we rode back and forth to the conferences over the weekend, and he gave me this story, and man, I mean, here's a firsthand witness to being abducted, and they made a movie out of it. And the credible sources and the sheriffs and all that, I mean, and we're not believing that UFOs exist. It just baffles me to this day that so much evidence that we're talking about all of this. First of all, we should just believe in it with all the evidence that's out there. And once we can get to that point, okay, what's the next step?
Yeah, it's funny because they didn't even believe it. Like Steve Rogers, like the whole crew didn't. Like none of them believes Pierce. None of them, those guys, believed in aliens at that time. But that was something that was not even a concept they were thinking about.
Oh yeah.
And then they just got like suckered into this whole event. I had Steve Pierce, which is the youngest member of the crew, in Travis's crew. I had him on the show here not long ago, and it's funny because Travis never has come forward saying that he's had any other experiences or encounters or abductions or anything else or any contact, but Steve has.
Wow.
He's had sightings since. He claims to have been abducted a few times.
Yeah.
And remember, these guys all took lie detector tests. Mm-hmm. And Steve has had a very rough go at it since this happened.
Yeah.
He had to move several times. People were threatening him and all kinds of stuff. And, he hasn't had it easy. This is not a guy who came on and became rich because of what happened to Travis.
Right,
In fact, none of the guys wanted any publicity after this incident happened.
Right.
They all kind of like, they shied away from the media. Travis even went back to work, and he retired after working, 25-something years at the same company he worked at when this happened to him. So it's not like he became a millionaire overnight or anything. And that movie didn't make him a millionaire, for sure.
Yeah.
So the guy, I believe Travis. I think his story is legit. One of the few, though, that I really say is 100% legit, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but if his is true, and I believe it is too, then we're not alone in the universe. That's all
Correct.
it takes is one.
Yeah, 1%.
And we're talking all night. We could go on and on and on. And what about all the people that have had these abductions and some of the people that I've been doing hypnotherapy on over the years that they didn't even know they were abducted, and all of a sudden, bam, it comes out in hypnosis. And it's like, oh my gosh, what? Like, it's a shock to the therapist because you're not expecting it. You're thinking
Right.
it's going to be something, in this lifetime as a child. And then as you're doing this hypnosis, you're taking these people back. And then the next thing you know, they're in a past life. And they're describing exactly what they're wearing, where they lived, what their name was, and, I mean, what they were eating. And then all of a sudden all these other things open up to you like, oh my gosh, you mean we live more than one life? Well, wait a minute. I'm a Catholic, or I was, and I have to come here and I have to get it right one time or I'm going to heaven or hell. And now all of a sudden, more than one person that I've personally hypnotized had these past life experiences. So it just opens up a whole new can of worms for you to explore and try to get to the bottom of. And like I said, this story is so big, you just have to be open because all of this stuff is related in one way or the other. But if you're closed-minded to it, you're not going to get the answers.
That's very true. How did you, switch your practice over and start doing hypnotherapy that dealt with abductions? I mean, how did that come up, or dealt with past life?
It was incidental. It was just incidental. That's what I'm saying. You're taking this person back, and you're doing this hypnosis, and it just comes out of them, and you're just like, and I've heard of it before because I've done research, but here's this person right in front of you, and they're describing everything perfectly. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's almost unbelievable. But, we believe that angels exist, right?
Some of us do. Well, I'm an angel.
Okay, you are. You are. Okay, so I can believe in you, right?
Yeah, you can believe in me.
Anyway, so if these people, most people that believe in angels, where do they come from? Where do they exist at? And so if they exist outside of our spatial time that we can't perceive within the five senses, and by the way, the visual spectrum is only so wide that the human being can perceive, but beyond what we conceive is ultraviolet rays and infrared. Just
Right.
because we can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just we don't have a tool within our physical body to measure it and to experience it. So we've developed various things over the years to, pick up on like Geiger meters and all these other things. It's not, you can't prove that this stuff is there with the human body, but we've developed tools to prove it. So my point is, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And if you can believe in angels and they're outside our paradigm, then why is it so hard to believe in ETs outside of our paradigm?
And this goes back to the statement I made earlier about God being an extraterrestrial. ETs, angels are ETs also. They're outside of our planet. They're not of this realm. Now, here's a bigger question. Have aliens been mistaken for angels all along?
Here,
and I'm talking about aliens like the Greys. I mean, and this is something. And Joseph, let me be clear here real quick. I do believe that throughout history, a lot of the mythology on this planet have been by people who've made mistakes in identifying what they were witnessing. Leprechauns, demons, ghosts, angels, fairies, all these creatures that people throughout history have made a mythology out of. My belief is it's a very good possibility that these beings were actually extraterrestrials down here doing some kind of experimenting or whatever they were doing. Maybe they were just passing by and sightseeing. Who the heck knows? But they were passing through. They stopped. Somebody saw them, and in their own rational mind, they created the fairies, the leprechauns, the demons, because they wouldn't know how to perceive an extraterrestrial from another world within our 3D dimension. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And okay, so this is where it gets deep. So tell me, how deep do you want to go?
Yeah, let's go as deep as the rabbit hole will take us, my friend.
Oh, boy. Okay. You ready for this?
Go ahead. Give it to me.
Okay, so what if, let's just do it this way. What if there is an astral realm that is at a particular plane and it's a particular awareness? What if there is an archangel realm? What if there is an ET realm? And what if there are various ET races that hold a frequency at different dimensions? And so I'll give you an example. What if we're 3D people? So what we can see, hear, smell, taste, touch, that's our awareness.
Right.
Okay? So that's basically 3D. So what if there was a species that was an octave above us that could shift down, up or down? And so they're a fourth dimensional being. So they're just high enough. They're just a little bit higher than we are. And so with that, what are the rules there? If they can elude us, but they can manipulate us from right beside us and we don't even know it, could that be what happened? Say, oh gosh, I don't know how deep I should go with this. Could that be the Anunnaki that everybody talks about that's in the Sumerian text? What if they were from a higher dimensional plane, say fourth density, and they had this, not only their own physicality and what they could do because of their awareness and their consciousness and their belief system, but also their technology was just a little bit further advanced than where we were? They would look like gods to us, right? So what if there is higher dimensional beings that look they're higher yet, say fifth dimensional and above? The way I look at it is fifth dimensional beings they see things in unconditional love. That means there's no judgment, there's no fear, there's no doubt. And the perfect person that I would say that could depict what fifth dimensional reality was like and what humanity's highest potential is would be Jesus Christ. All of the things that, as he walked this planet, him healing, him teaching unconditional love, him saying things like, you will do these things or greater things. What he was trying to teach humanity was, this is your highest potential. You can do exactly what I'm doing. You just haven't reached that belief in yourself, that consciousness, that energy that needs to be on the planet at the particular place and space of time. And so another variable that steps in here is time. We see time in such a linear way, but outside of this paradigm, this three-dimensional polarity that we live in, all of the rules change as you go up in these dimensions. So when you get into, say, fifth dimension, there is no time. Everything's happening in the present moment. Everything's a potential. So when you're standing there, I look at it as though, oh, geez, how's the best way on the radio to do this? Okay. my mom's a baker, right? She bakes bundt cakes. So you know what a bundt cake looks like? They have that center hole in it.
They're delicious, yes.
Okay, so you're in the center, and you have all those slices all around you. So you have the conscious choice of experiencing whatever slice you want. You just focus your attention towards that, and you shift right into that particular moment of now. But everything's a potential. So when I say this gets deep, this is what I'm talking about. That you have to understand all the dimensions. You got to understand time. And so, again, we could be here all night trying to explain, and it gets so confusing because we're intermixing the awarenesses and the understandings of each dimension. So we're talking 3D, 4D, 50, and up. So that's why I hesitate to even try to answer some of these questions on here, because if you don't have the basics, like...
Well, let me ask you, what is your feeling then, or your thought on the possibility? And by the way, we're almost out of time, so I'm going to get this question out quick. What is your thought on the possibility that we're living in a holographic universe?
I agree with it 100%.
I figured you would.
I don't know how to take that, Angel.
Now, do you think this is going to be proven to be like the greatest theory of the 21st century, that we live in a holographic universe?
See, here's the other thing. It all has to do with consciousness and awareness. And I think that we come from all different parts of the universe, and there are different soul growths here. There's ancient souls, there's baby souls, or young souls here. So to answer that question, you have to understand that and to know that some of these people will never get to that awareness in this lifetime. And there's no judgment. It just means that they're just on a different point of their path. And that's how, if I'm going along my path and there's somebody ahead of me and I don't get it anymore, I don't judge them. I'm open to what they're saying to me. I might not have experienced it or not be understanding what they're talking about, but I hope to get there. In the same token, I look back at some of the people where I used to be, and I'm like, hey, look up here. Wait till you see what's here. And I'm paving this way, and they don't get what I'm saying, but they're like, oh, you're crazy. There's nothing up there. And then next thing you know, they reach it, and they're like, holy crap, he was right. And these are the epiphanies that I've gotten to all my life. It's just like as I'm pushing forward, I'm like, oh my gosh, I used to judge that person thinking he's a crackpot for believing this, and now I understand it differently. so you can call me a crackpot if you want, but...
I'll tell you what, I would never probably have been a believer in UFOs unless I had my own sightings.
Exactly.
As a kid, that completely changed my awareness of everything. When I saw something in the sky that could not possibly be man-made by us men, maybe men from another world, but not by us, technology that I just could not understand, that's when I said, okay, I believe there's something's going on. And I was a kid back then, so I've grown up with that belief system ever since I was a child, and it really has changed my life to the point that now I do shows about this stuff. Joseph, we really are running out of time here. I want to have you back on Skywatchers Radio coming up very soon on Dark Matter Radio Network and here on PSN Radio. We must continue this discussion because getting into the rabbit hole is very fun.
Yes, it's is.
A lot of fun, and especially when you do it on radio with people that know what they're talking about. So we're definitely going to have you back on. It's been great having you here on the show. Like I said, we're only a couple minutes before we got to get off. But give the audience any websites or anything they could contact you on if they want to hear your past episodes or something like that you've done in the past. Give the audience a place to go and search for you.
Sure. Well, first of all, for the month of December, I'm doing like a bunch of free angel card readings. Whoever contacts me, I've been doing them free. You can contact me through universaltalking@gmail.com. I have a couple of websites. One is universaltalk.info. The other is a guiding light, spelled LITE.com. And I have a YouTube page under my name. It's either under Universal Talk or else under Joseph Marra. And I know we're out of time, so I guess I'll leave it at that.
There you go. And we will have you back on Skywatchers very, very soon. I'll send you some information for that episode so we can continue this conversation.
Awesome.
And get deeper into the rabbit hole. So if you guys heard this show and you liked it and you want to listen on to more of what we got to say, listen in on Tuesday at 11 p.m. Eastern. And the promotion will be on the internet pretty soon, and you'll be able to pick up where we left off here. Dr. Joseph Marra, thank you so much for being here, sir, and we will talk again pretty soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Take care. All right, everybody, we are out of time. This is Inside the Jackal's Head, and thank you all for listening. Thank you, everybody on PSN Radio in the chat room. Thanks, everybody on SoFlo Radio. And, of course, our good friends at TalkStream Live. Tuesday coming up on Skywatchers Radio. Please be there. We do have a show coming up, and it's a big one. And when I say big one, Joseph, you know who's going to be on the show with us?
No, I don't. Who is it?
Jesse Marcel III.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
And that's in the first hour. The second hour, we have Jose Escamilla.
I don't
Roswell
know.
Rods.
Ah.
The Roswell Rods. We're going to have him on the second hour. Please look out for that. Of course, on Inside the Jackal's Head next week, my good friend UFO Phil will join us. And that should be a riot. If you want to get silly, listen in next week right here on Inside the Jackal's Head. Until next time, take care, everybody, and be safe.